Welcome to The Explainer, everyone. Today we are jumping right into the fiery birth of the modern world. If you've been following along, you know we've been breaking down some pretty complex history, and guess what? We are officially in the final stretch. Think of this as your ultimate masterclass on how the very concept of the European nation-state was actually forged. So let's bring that high energy straight to the finish line.
You know the saying, it's not done until it's done, 100 out of 100. I mean, it is so easy to lose steam right as you approach the finish line, right? You start dreaming about the freedom that comes after the test. But hitting absolute perfection, that means you absolutely cannot relax just yet. We got to give our absolute best right up until the very end. Because here is the ultimate reality check. We only have 4 days left until the final exam. 4 days. This is definitely not the time to get distracted. It's the time to lock in. If you dedicate these next few minutes entirely to how these nations were built and follow exactly what we map out today, you're going to walk into that exam room completely and utterly prepared.
All right, so here's our quick roadmap for today. First up, the final exam push. Then we'll hit the timeline of European nationalism, followed by Sório's utopian vision. After that, we'll dive into the French Revolution, and finally, wrap up with forging a collective identity. Let's get into it.
Starting off with Section 1, the timeline of European nationalism, basically the roadmap of the era.
Now, what's really fascinating about this era is how it's basically a perfect historical domino effect. I mean, look at this. We start with the massive, explosive spark of the French Revolution. Boom. That directly leads to the rule of Napoleon. And then, when he falls, the conservatives take power, which ironically triggers this whole new age of revolutions. All of that momentum eventually results in the epic unifications of Germany and Italy. And finally, those rising tensions culminate in the First World War. It is a literal, direct chain reaction from that very first demand for liberty all the way to global conflict.
Moving right along to Section 2, Sório's utopian vision, or the pact between nations.
So to really wrap our heads around these historical phases, we absolutely have to look at the rich symbolism in this incredible 1848 artwork by French artist Frédéric Sório. Take a really close look at the scattered, broken pieces down on the ground. You see those shattered crowns and royal symbols? That represents the absolute destruction of despotism. Despotism, if you recall, is basically a system of total tyrannical rule. Sório was visualizing this totally new future where oppressive kings are literally crushed under the march of progress to make way for democracy.
And it's brilliant because every single element he painted was a deliberate symbol for this new world order. You've got the Statue of Liberty holding the torch of enlightenment and the Charter of the Rights of Man. Then there are the marching nations, representing everyday people who are no longer defined by whoever their king is, but by shared identities, basically forming a worldwide democratic republic. Even those angels looking down from above, they symbolize divine blessing and a true sense of fraternity among all nations. It's like the ultimate utopian dream.
All right, on to Section 3, the French Revolution, where we see the gritty reality of the nation-state take shape.
This right here is where the concept of the nation-state is truly born. Think about it. Before 1789, a territory just belonged to a king. If a king went to sleep and his army conquered some new land overnight, well, his territory just got bigger by morning. There was absolutely zero concept of a nation for the actual people living there. But in 1789, that changed forever. For the very first time in European history, citizens successfully protested and literally ripped power away from an absolute monarch, King Louis XVI. Power was transferred directly into the hands of the public. It was a massive game changer.
But as you can probably guess, grabbing power is really only half the battle. How on earth do you keep millions of people united once the king is completely gone? Well, think of it like a cricket team. When players step out onto the pitch, they're all wearing a shared uniform, right? That uniform creates this unified front and a super powerful sense of collective belonging against their opponent. A newly freed nation has to do the exact same thing. After overthrowing a monarch, citizens desperately need shared symbols, things like flags, hymns, and common languages, to build a collective identity. Otherwise, they just fracture and fall apart.
Which brings us perfectly to Section 4, forging a collective identity, focusing on the specific steps taken by the French.
These 5 sequential steps are so crucial because they clearly map out the deliberate shifts the French took to basically delete old class divisions and build a unified national identity from scratch. Step 1, they introduced these incredibly powerful ideas of la patrie, the fatherland, and le citoyen, the citizen, basically saying, hey, we all belong to the same land and we all have equal rights, totally regardless of old social status.
Step 2, they adopted the French tricolor flag, this highly visible symbol of a brand new era. Step 3, they replaced the old, out-of-touch Royal Advisory Board with a newly elected National Assembly. Step 4 was establishing a centralized administration. And finally, Step 5, heavily promoting a single common French language.
Notice just how deeply practical these administrative changes were, guys. This wasn't just some high-minded philosophy. This affected everyday, normal life. They literally tore down the old royal standard to fly that new blue, red, and white flag. The old, deeply unequal Estates General, entirely abolished. They even composed patriotic hymns and publicly commemorated the martyrs who died for the revolution, which built this incredible emotional bond among the people. They actively discouraged regional dialects to make sure everyone could actually communicate using a common French language. And get this, they even implemented uniform weights and measures. I mean, imagine traveling from town to town and having to use totally different weighing scales. By standardizing all of this, every single citizen, whether they were buying a loaf of bread or selling goods, truly felt like they were part of one cohesive, modern state.
So is the concept of European nationalism perfectly clear now, or is your attention starting to lag a bit? Seriously though, as you head into your exam, just think about the sheer magnitude of what we just covered. The French didn't just overthrow a king, they literally engineered the blueprint for modern belonging. Every time you see a national flag, hear an anthem, or speak a standardized language, you are looking at the direct echoes of 1789. It really begs the question, if national identity can be so carefully, intentionally constructed over time, how might it continue to evolve in our increasingly borderless future? Keep that momentum going, remember your history, and go crush that exam.